good morning. Welcome to Weekend Breakfast with me, David, all the time just after 7:20 on Saturday, September the 17th. Thank you very much indeed for all your lovely messages. This is Dan from Kent. I love Saturday mornings watching TalkTV with you, David and Renee, followed by Peter Cardwell, especially after a hard and sombre week's work. God bless our wonderful Queen and long live the King. This one from Angel, Cat Thomas, saying, good morning, Doctors David and Renee. Only one Great Britain could unite a kingdom, and she was ours. May she rest in peace and rise in glory. We will never see another like her. I think that sentiment is absolutely true. Joining us this morning, Steve Denyer, to talk us through this morning's papers. Good morning.
Good morning to both of you. I hope you're well. Nice to be with you this morning. Just looking, it's another day of just monumental news, isn't it? Any of the newspapers this week, you should just keep, because in years and years and years' time, there'll be a great diary to what we've been through, what we've been living through over the last 7 days.
Yes, it is extraordinary, and we were saying actually, just the way it has been carried out has been perfect. Everything about it.
We do it the best. I know it's been said before, but we really do it the best. And it's so unusual. I can't remember the last time picking up a newspaper and it's just full of the most amazing photographs. I mean, just one of these events that we've seen in the last 7 days would be the hugest news of the whole year. But we've witnessed just history unfolding.
So I had a let's say heated discussion with a panellist on the talk last week, or last week, and he JJ Anasiobi, and he was saying that actually younger people are not royalists, and I disagree vehemently with that. I think there is a group, but actually talking to younger people, particularly those under 30, actually, I sense that actually they really do like the monarchy.
Yes. Well, I mean, I witnessed the queue, and I've been talking to people in the queue, and really is. It's all ages. It's every...
Were the younger people taken by their parents, for example?
No, there were lots of young people that have just gone because they feel it's the right thing to do. And I think lots of people are in that queue because they want to have their slice of history. Because really, if you do witness the Queen lying in state, you'll be telling generations about this story. The experience will live with you for years.
Yeah, I think there probably is a bigger generational divide in younger people to older people. Because, when I think about my mum, for example, she tells me that she was 9 when the King died and the Queen came to the throne, and she remembers the palpable sadness in the world around that event. So I think there's definitely going to be a generational divide. But I think you're right. I think what this might do is it might actually stir up a new kind of patriotism amongst younger people for the monarchy.
It's interesting also, I think it buys time for the Commonwealth. We've certainly seen Jacinda Ardern saying that there wouldn't be a referendum on not having the Queen as head of state or the King as head of state.
It's always stalled
in many ways,
isn't it?
And just before you came in, I was saying that actually it was so sweet in so many ways that the Queen died in Scotland, her beloved Scotland, because of course she was very proud of the Union. And watching the mourners on the Royal Mall, I was under no illusion that actually they were there to pay their respects to the monarch and everything she stood for.
What an amazing send-off. What an incredible start to this whole...
I think the only thing I'm sad about is that they couldn't use the Royal Train, and I know there were lots of logistics behind that. That would have given other people, particularly in the north of England, the opportunity to pay their respects. But obviously, logistics are what logistics are.
We're seeing in the papers, though, that the route between central London and Windsor after the funeral on Monday has indeed been extended, and they've done that very much in the knowledge that they want more people to kind of witness this piece of history. Obviously, the queue for to see the Queen lying in state at the moment has been paused.
Again.
It's cold out there.
It's 24 hours,
24-hour queue. There's literally...
That's a long time.
I saw the back of the queue from where I live this morning coming in, and there are people with babies and young kids, and it was cold. It was very, very cold, noticeably cold over the last couple of days.
I mean, that was one of the reasons I didn't go to the queue, because I did have this desire to do so, and I really did. I wanted to be part of it. And one of the reasons I didn't is I would have had to take a 4-year-old, and I just didn't think that was feasible or fair on her. I was very lucky that I actually got to see it anyway in Paddington, but I'm not sure about taking babies and children, just because it's very hard for them to concentrate, to actually actually be warm enough for long enough?
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's hard for anybody. I know somebody who managed to get through in 5.5 hours, and he said that was an ordeal, and that was on Wednesday when it was a little bit warmer
Yes, you
as well.
see, so when I finished the talk on Wednesday, we finished at 10. I then thought about going down because the queue started in Borough, which isn't far from this building, and actually you could get through in 4 to 5 hours, and I wish I'd done that, but of course hindsight is a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you go down to the funeral?
I haven't actually thought that through yet.
It's where do you go, what vantage point?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and in many ways, I would like to watch the procession on television.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's going to be the
Totally.
best vantage point.
And the dignitaries and the
You can see
VIPs that have flown in, and we will never see a gathering like this of world leaders, of the President of the United States. And actually, there's another side to this politically. Of course, there will be a lot of diplomacy going on at the same time. I know the Prime Minister is meeting those world leaders before.
The last time we got to see anything like this was probably Churchill's funeral in 65.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm not old enough to remember that, so for lots of people, for the younger generation, this really will be quite the moment.
It
Quite
really
the
will.
moment.
So let's start with your first paper then, shall we? The Daily Mail.
Yeah, I mean, this is unsettling, it's disturbing news, and as soon as I read this morning, my heart skipped a beat. A man's been arrested for grabbing the Queen's coffin. Now, this happened last night, just before 10 o'clock, and other mourners were pushed away. It would seem they stopped the live stream after this happened, so it seems, and the Daily Mail on the front page have got a still of this. The man was arrested by armed officers, so there are armed officers in the hall. He was wrestled to the ground. He's now been arrested, but I mean that must have been deeply disturbing, deeply unsettling. For the
why
other
would you
mourners.
do that?
Why would you do it? We also had a roller skater who skated in front of King Charles III's car last night, you know, just as he was pulling up for the vigil. That happened. There was an incident in the queue a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, I think when you have this amount of people, incidents will always happen. But thank goodness they acted and they reacted within seconds.
And
it
actually,
literally was
these are a tiny number.
Tiny. But you're never ever going to avoid this kind of thing when you're gathering so many people together. The TV crews are everywhere. There are people who want their moment of fame. There's mental health at work. You know, there's bad things at work, and unfortunately...
But it is a shame. It does spoil it for the rest of us.
So does that mean the live stream has been pulled completely now?
The live stream was back on this morning when I woke up and I had a look. It would seem that it was stopped shortly after that incident. I think it happened just after the Royals, held their vigil last night. So it was just after 10 o'clock. I was in bed because I had to go.
Yes, I was in bed as well. So this person's been arrested?
Yes, he has. That's all we've got. All I've got is he was arrested, so on suspicion of a public order offence.
Do you know what I found really fascinating about the whole thing is when you've seen these pockets of sort of resistance or protest, that actually it's the crowd who've been the biggest policemen. And that says something about the British psyche, I think.
It does, and I think, that's the most common thing that we see, isn't it? Although sometimes, obviously, that will break out into violence, which is not a good thing. But, I think that's kind of what keeps things in check as well.
Yes, it is. Right, so that's the end of that one. So the Times, page 1.
Yes, this is about Prince Andrew appearing in military uniform.
Yes, so the Vigil of the Princes last night.
And it's very much, and this I can kind of tie this in with what's going to happen later, because apparently Prince Harry's also been told he can wear his military uniform, so the grandchildren have got their vigil tonight. I'm
pleased about that.
Just after, so it seems the right thing to do, and watching them in their morning outfits the other day with the procession between obviously Buckingham Palace and Westminster, it did look slightly odd. It looked slightly out of place. But
you see, so for me last night, I think it was right actually that Prince Andrew was in military uniform at the vigil. But of course he and Harry, and I think that is the right thing, but at the funeral itself, the state funeral, they won't be in uniform.
Right, okay.
So they'll be back, and that would be in keeping with not being, as far as I'm aware, working members of the royal family, and I think that's probably right too.
So just for the vigil, they were allowed
just for the vigil.
So I'm not sure actually, because I think if you think of all of them, it's actually Harry and Andrew who are the only two that have actually seen active service. I have a lot of bad things to say about Harry quite often and Andrew, but on this occasion I think they did serve our country. They went into war zones. Harry's life was at risk, as were his people, for 10 years. So I'm not sure we can just...
It's an interesting point, and also of course you see Andrew is entitled to wear that uniform.
Absolutely. He went to the Falklands, for goodness sake.
Well, maybe the king will change his mind. I don't know, but I think it was in the gift of the king.
Yes.
And I know that is because his mother would have wanted that. And it looked right last night.
It really did.
And a lot has happened in this last week that has looked right, like you say. I mean, if I can take you back to last Saturday, it was a week ago, wasn't it? Outside Windsor, we had Meghan and Harry. You know, and that brilliant walk around, which none of us were expecting. We never thought would happen. It did happen, and I think it's one of the greatest things to happen this week. The fact that we saw that happening, they looked real. It was the right thing to happen. I think the nation thought that's a really great moment.
I think it was very magnanimous of William to invite them. But I also, if you look at Meghan, she looked terrified.
Yes.
Didn't she?
Yeah, but you can understand that, can't you? Because
I can.
a week before that, she'd been sitting on national TV and on podcasts, rubbishing the very family she's now walking amongst.
So here's the thing, and I wondered this last week. Do you think that actually this has changed the relationship between Harry and Meghan and the Crown? Because I think, my personal view is, and I met the boys, William and Harry, many, many years ago, but now, you see, the proximity is so much closer because his father is now king. That changes a lot.
It does, but I think it depends very much what happens going forward. I think that will define what happens. I think the olive branch is there, but I think it won't be there for long if things don't change.
If the podcasts continue, if the book
I would
comes out,
agree
we still haven't heard anything about those plans. Obviously put on hold for now.
Yes.
But who knows what's going to happen.
So Archetypes obviously has been put on hold.
The podcast.
Also, I understand that she's not doing some interview she was going to do.
Magazine.
That's a Variety, the front page of that,
Yeah.
the cover page of that. There's another interview she's not doing as well. But the big issue for me is this book.
Yeah.
And I understand they may have got a contract, but equally, are you really going to undermine your entire family by publishing a book rubbishing your father, or certainly the members of the royal family, at a time when your father has ascended to the throne?
And of course, everything's changed. Like you say, he's now king.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so significant, because everything has changed.
Yes. Within the last week, and this is sensational. It's so interesting to
But
find
now
out.
it's, will it change going forward? And that's going to be the litmus test.
It is, and that's why I think they have a window of opportunity.
Yes, they do.
So they either seize it now, or I think it's over.
I absolutely agree, and I think that will come to the fore very quickly. I don't think we're going to have to wait long to see that. And if I was a betting woman, I think they'll publish.
See,
They
I
may
think
delay
so
it,
as well.
I
I
think
have an
they're
inkling
gonna
that it will
publish.
happen.
But you see, I think the British public are very forgiving of Meghan and Harry. I think they were also thrilled about the fact they'd come back together.
She got a great reaction last Sunday.
Of course,
One person
but
refused to shake
will
hands.
that reaction be the same if she publishes?
No.
No is the
No.
answer. And so what are they doing? That's the bit I don't get.
I don't think any of us can answer that, David.
No.
I mean, there's bitterness there, clearly, and, you know, a woman scorned.
We will know before Christmas. The answers will be unfolding and rolling.
So there's another really interesting thing. I think when Meghan came into the royal family, she thought this was a bit like being famous, a bit like being in Disney, you know, that kind of... Well, I think she did. She honestly did. But when you look at the pictures and you realise that the monarch and the crown and all of our sort of traditions and that incredible sort of theatrics, I suppose, that accompanies the crown, that continues regardless of who is the sovereign.
And we've witnessed this before, haven't we? Your Dianas, people can come, they can go, but you can't change the monarchy.
No.
You can't change where it stands or
No.
what it is. I just wondered if we could touch on celebrities.
Yes, please.
Who've been queuing up.
Yeah,
so
this
we've
is
got
really contentious.
on one side we've got David Beckham, big double-page spread of pages 4 and 5, who apparently stood in queue for 12 hours to see the Queen's
for him.
coffee.
Yes.
He apparently went unnoticed. I mean, how could you? You know, I've heard.
But he did
reports
have
of-
a hat on.
He did have a hat on. But people have been swapping numbers, and WhatsApp groups have been formed, and people adding each other on social media. The very fact that David Beckham apparently stood in the queue for 12 hours and no one said, "Hi, how are you? Where have you come from? You know, what's your story?" or whatever. But he did stand for 12 hours.
He probably said, "I'm from Ascot."
So I've got a very good Irish accent.
Yeah.
So you've got him. You've also got Philip and Holly, who apparently from this morning. Now this looked kind of bad last night when I saw it. They had the media passes to
Yes.
apparently bypass the
I
queue.
have a problem with that.
I
Which
do too.
just looks wrong. You've got to read the room. When people are queuing for 13 hours.
Why do they
plus,
need to go? They do a daytime show. It's not. I'm not being funny, but it's not a news program.
No, but now they can actually put that on their daytime show, and they didn't have to stand in a queue with David Beckham for 12 hours.
I have a problem with that. Do you think it's right?
It doesn't look good. I mean, I know journalists who've been given passes, it sounds like we're at Alton Towers, queue jump passes.
I know.
Because obviously authorities want people to talk about it. Not a lot of us can go. So to hear other people's experiences, they will be doing a feature on this morning. But when you've got David Beckham, bless him, who has queued quietly.
Well, that is a great example.
It is.
And lots of TV presenters. I mean, Richard Tice queued. I saw that.
Yes.
You know, lots of people queued.
I think Susanna Reid queued as well.
Susanna Reid.
I think you have to. It's part of the experience. And what I hear, the whole experience is the camaraderie, the meeting people, and then as soon as you get into the hall, I spoke to a couple of people the other night, they said everything changes, incredibly emotional, and it's an experience.
And of course, many people would not have been into Westminster Hall.
No.
Unfortunately, I've been there many times, but it is the most extraordinary. I mean, it dates to 1097. Yes. It's the oldest part of that parliamentary estate. And actually, if you look at what happened in there, the Cromwell, I think, was outside that very building. I mean, we've had trials.
Charles the First.
Yes, exactly. So this is not some sort of Disney. This is real living history. And interestingly, I have less of a problem with the members of Parliament, and I spoke to some of them, but they were given some passes. Maybe 4 was too many, I don't know. But obviously they work in the Palace of Westminster.
They do, and they actually worked with the Queen being the constitutional monarch of Parliament.
Indeed.
So I actually have less of a problem with that, although I was talking to my other half and he still has a problem with that. He doesn't think anyone should be able to queue jump. And you know, that's kind of...
So we should all do the same thing. Yeah. And join that queue. And that queue stopped because it's so long and it's cold out there. So good luck to all those people who will somehow get there.
Well, they're saying 24 hours.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So if you do attempt to join that queue, you won't be seeing anything until this time tomorrow, 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
So it was quite interesting. I was reading what Susanna Reid said, actually, that there's plenty of water around as well, because I had visions of trying to take litres and litres of water with me, but that may not be the case. And then also, obviously, you can nip off to the loo, and apparently it is very well organised.
Yes, that's what I hear. But literally, you cannot take anything in with you. So you're not allowed, Werther's originals have been confiscated.
Phones? What happens to phones?
What do people do?
Phones have to be off and they're checked. But any kind of liquids, makeup, fluids, whatever, medication, you literally can't take anything in. And
we're talking about that later.
Stricter than airports and security, so you'll lose it.
Okay, shall we move on now to the Daily Express?
The Daily Express. So again, I'm trying to be light-hearted. Prince Harry branded the Crown's Matt Smith granddad in a cheeky encounter recently. It's interesting because the Crown has now got back into, I think it's number 2 in the worldwide chart. Everybody re-watching The Crown.
People touching up their history.
In inverted commas.
Well, we talked about this. So the viewing figures globally have gone up 800% for The Crown.
That's amazing.
Look, I'm a lover of The Crown because I love a period drama, whatever. So anything historical I love. How close it is to actually what really happened, however, is questionable, I think.
And I do love the family. I thought Matt Smith was an amazing Prince Philip. I think those two were the best for me. With Claire Foy.
Yeah, I think she's
incredible.
great.
It's a pleasure to re-watch some of those episodes because they're so good.
And I said this about Olivia Colman. Obviously is playing a different era of the Queen, but Claire Foy, to me, encapsulates the Queen's naughtiness and spirit.
Yes.
And when she's younger, and Matt Smith too, and he's actually the one who's far more serious and trying to get the monarch into line. Now, obviously, it's not a historical piece.
But they both have twinkles in their eyes, don't they? And
he was very protective of the monarchy. Anybody that did anything that might upset the monarchy was dealt with ruthlessly by him. Fergie being one of them.
That's a very good point. And actually, one other thing that's come out of this for me was the grief etched on Sophie's face, Sophie Wessex's face. And clearly, the Queen and Sophie were very close.
Yeah, very close. So I think, yes, you're absolutely right, and I think she really has felt it.
Yeah.
But I think Fergie and the Queen were quite close as well. But in respect to Philip, the Queen wouldn't extend that, bringing her into public life anymore, but they were quite close.
Because of Prince Philip?
Yes.
Yes, I understood that.
because he really detested Fergie, what she did to the family.
I mean, let's just talk about where we go from here. I mean, we haven't got much time, but obviously the state funeral is on Monday. We've got dignitaries flying in. We're never going to see anything like this in our life.
No, we're not. No, we've got a silence tomorrow evening, Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, and a 2-minute silence at 11:55. This is on Monday, so this is after the funeral.
Say that again. Sorry, I missed that.
So we have a silence tomorrow evening,
Right.
at 8 p.m. 1-minute silence, and then there's a 2-minute silence on Monday, the bank holiday Monday, after the funeral. And I'm very much looking forward to, like we were saying earlier, to watching this. I will watch it on television. I'm working here on Virgin Radio, actually, but to cover that whole time. But we will have a front seat view of history.
We really will, and also I think as a rather lovely token that doctors and nurses will walk at the front of the funeral. We'll have royalty, heads of state, obviously the armed forces, and that gun carriage, 123 years old, towed by Royal Navy sailors, used in the funerals of Queen Victoria, Edward VII, George V, George VI, and
Blows
Churchill.
your mind, doesn't it?
I think that's remarkable.
It
I
is
really do, and it will be such a thing to watch and see.
It will, and just thinking about the numbers watching this around the world.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, they reckon it could be half the world's population could view this. So, at the very least, 4.5 billion people. Which, again, these statistics blow your mind. There's been so many things over the last week.
I mean, I wonder if we would ever see such interest in one thing again. I really do.
It's an interesting point. I mean, I think it's incredibly fitting. I think the one other thing about this that's really rather lovely is once it ends, there is then that private ceremony for the family. I mean, they must be exhausted.
Mentally, physically, it must just be the biggest ordeal. But they're doing it out of love, aren't they?
Of course they are.
Kindness and respect. But what a week. Of course, their mourning goes on for a few more days after the funeral.
Well, they'll need it. They'll absolutely need it, won't they? Steve, thank you so much for coming in to do the paper review. After the break, it's time for the sports update with Mr. Tom Clayton. This is Talk TV. We're broadcasting live from the Talk Radio studios.